Thank you and welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name is ADRIAN BERGERE. Like Alex said, I'm the program coordinator for the San Miguel Watershed Coalition. So we're the local watershed group for the San Miguel. So we do a lot of water quality monitoring. Some of that thanks to ACZ. Thanks, guys, for processing our samples. And our mission is to really conserve the environmental, ecological, and economic resources that the San Miguel provides. So I'm going to keep it brief. Thanks again for being here. And I'm going to pass it off to Todd Brown, Mayor Pro Tem of the town of Telluride.
Thanks, Adrian. Pro Tem means backup. Our mayor is in Westminster at the Colorado Municipal League Convention, so it falls to me. But I'm also, as Adrian said, on the board of the Watershed Coalition as well as Telluride Arts. So it's either multiple hats or multiple heads. Sometimes we're not sure. But again, thank you all for coming. Thanks for all the sponsors, and also to Dean and Vicky for providing all the AV backup as always. Welcome again to Telluride. This is not the first time and it won't be the last time that this conference is held here. For some reason, people like to come back, and we're happy to have you here. We're sitting today in the historic Opera House, and this, if I remember right, was built in 1902 and is largely original. One of the unique features here is the stenciling that you see on the walls is replicas of the original stenciling. When this was renovated, it's probably now 5 years ago, they scraped off layers and layers of wallpaper and paint and found the original stenciling underneath, and then had new stencils made to match the old. So the designs are what was here back in 1902. And that sort of sets the tone for this conference, the intersection of mining, reclamation, and the arts. And we hope you all enjoy our town and enjoy the fruits of this conference. Without anything else, I'm going to turn this over to Kate Jones. Kate is the Executive Director of Telluride Arts, formerly known as the Telluride Telluride CAH. Council for the Arts and Humanities. Yeah, thanks, Kate. It was a mouthful and nobody could remember it, so we changed it to Telluride Arts, as opposed to Alex and his whole list of 3-letter acronyms for all the sponsors. So Kate Jones is going to tell us about Telluride Arts and the transfer warehouse. Okay.
Thanks, Todd. Oh, good. We can, just fellow presenters, we can actually see the screen, so we'll be okay. Thank you, Todd. Todd is a pillar of this community. He actually was on the hiring committee that hired me 11 years ago. I consider him a dear friend, and I think he's on, what is it, Todd, 15 boards more? 21 boards. So if you have any questions about what's actually happening in Telluride, he's your man, because he knows. I'm hugely honored to be asked to do this keynote today and to be a part of this conference, and that you've chosen art for your theme is heartwarming at the least. And one of the, well, let's back up a little bit. Telluride Arts is the local arts council, Telluride Council for the Arts and Humanities, as Todd said. We are also an arts district, a certified arts district of the state of Colorado. And our arts council is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. And our primary concern is advancing a culture of the arts in Telluride. And what that means to us is we are looking at a holistic approach to arts development in this community. But we also are very interested in what's happening in the region, and that's really what we're going to talk about today. I've been really excited about these projects that we're going to talk about. And if you want to put my first slide up, that'd probably be good. Because there is just this wonderful natural connection between these 4 sites that were historic mining projects, I guess, that have now have been turned into art spaces. And it's a story I've been thinking needs to be told. And so this is the first time we're going to tell it. And I really appreciate this opportunity. So hopefully this all goes well. I will just say also, we're so grateful for this, to be a part of this planning committee. We kind of came in, I was asked to do the keynote. I reached out to all of these, the owners of these properties and the artists that were working on them, and they all decided to participate here today. And the committee has adapted and welcomed all of these sort of last minute changes. And I just want to express my appreciation for your flexibility. And hopefully our slideshow works well here. And I'll just say that, oh goody, yay. We're gonna go, what I'm gonna do is just introduce these four different properties in the region. I have a map to show you where they are. And if you wanted to go to the map, maybe that would be a good way to get people kind of oriented on the region. There it is. So you can see, this is not a fabulous map, but you can see those red stars. And these are the properties that we're going to be talking about today. We'll be talking about Camp V, which is in Vancorum, which is the farthest one on your left. And then we'll be talking about the Telluride Transfer Warehouse, which hopefully you'll all come and enjoy this afternoon. It's right here in the heart of Telluride. We'll be talking about Deep Creek Mine, and that's about 10 miles outside of town in, well, I don't know if it's the town of Deep Creek. And then we'll also be talking about the Silver Bell Mine, which is just outside of Ophir. So that just kind of gives you a sense of the geography of these four projects. And then if you could change to the next slide, please. Okay, no problem. So we're each going to talk about our four projects independently, and then we'll come together at the end and have, if we have time, we'll have a little question and answer session. So if you have any burning questions, we'll be available to answer those at the end. Thank you for doing that. I'm glad that's you, not me. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to introduce Natalie Binder, and the way that this is formatted, fingers crossed, is that each one of our speakers is going to have 20 slides. They're going to automatically advance at 15 seconds a piece. So we're going to try to be sort of on our toes and succinct about our presentations. It's actually a presentation model that we use to, it's called 20 by Telluride. It's an evening of artists sharing their work that we do here in Telluride. It's one of our programs. So we're kind of copying that model. And I will let Natalie tell you about herself, and then we'll hit play. This is Natalie Binder.
Hi, thank you so much. We're so happy to be here. Thank you, Kate. So let's get going. My name's Natalie Binder. I'm with a project called Camp V, which is located in Van Horn, Colorado, which was built by the Vanadium Corporation of America. It's just outside of Natarita, Colorado. This is myself. This is my partner, Jody Wright, who's a local architect. When we took on this project, we knew that it was going to take a pretty special team, and you'll see why in some of the following slides. But this is us out at the property. Here's an overview of the property. It's 120 acres. You can see the original 14 cabins that were built by the mining company to house the engineers who worked in the nearby uranium mill. It's got its own water system. And so this is actually the original sign by the Vanadium Corporation. My grandmother was actually the secretary to the president of the Vanadium Corporation and lived on the property. So my family has really deep roots, not only in the mining community, but also in that particular community. So as I said, it was built in 1942. We reestablished it as Camp V. We just opened in April. It has a very big emphasis on art, but also on retelling the history. I go to junkyards often, and so actually I found this when I was going through looking for some inspiration for some art projects. This was actually my grandfather's mining truck, from his uranium mining days. So this is just a very glimpse of what the property looked like before we took it on. We had resident chickens. There was actually people living there. When the mining company sold it in the 70s, it was sort of operated as a year-round community, but it had gone into disrepair. So this is what it looked like after. We restored as much as we could. Unfortunately, we did have to gut them, but we did our best to tell a story with the floors and whatnot, and reusing a lot of old materials on the property so people could see the history. We formed a nonprofit called We Arts, which is under the umbrella of Telluride Arts. And we've recently started hosting community events to bring the community together to this really historic piece of history and part of the community. We took an old water tank, built a floor in it, and actually we did some, this is a musical meditation that we did 2 weeks ago. We had people that came from LA, from San Francisco. For the first time, they're coming to a community like Natarita, which again has always been an extraction-based community, and they're coming there for the arts. This was a piece that was commissioned from a friend of mine from Burning Man. It's been at Burning Man. It's now permanently there. It's called the Prairie Wind Chapel, and it's really kind of the heart of the property. We hosted an artist in residence from the New York Academy of Art. Actually, this is Kate's beautiful dog, but this was our artist that came out from New York. So we're also introducing people into the community who would never come into a community like this, and really sort of pushing the boundaries. This is one of our resident art cars that we've brought in, and so we've been hosting music events. You can sort of see this up against the backdrop of the water tank. It was really important to us that we restored as many things on the property as we could. This is us foraging again. We're sort of surrounded by junkyards, which we also call opportunity, and we've really tried to, incorporate as much of this into the project as we can, so that it really, is conducive to the history. This is actually pieces that came out of the coal-fired power plant, which recently closed. This is happening all over the West. Again, transitioning from this attraction-based economy to an art economy. So we reuse those cooling tower fans to do art installations. This was live art that we had going on a couple weeks ago, and this was recently auctioned off to help support our arts nonprofit so we can continue our mission. We found that for a lot of people, they're coming to the project, because of the accommodations that we have, but really while they're there, they're interested in learning about this past that was based in mining, and about what the future means and how they can help, especially as some of these economies make the transition from these coal-fired power plants that are closing down. This is one of our glamping tents. This is actually another piece that also, this is a crusher cone that came out of the coal plant as well. And so again, we felt it was really important to restore these pieces because they were going to get destroyed. And this provides people an opportunity when they come to the property, again, to learn about that past in mining. This is a water tank that we've turned into an art installation, which makes really cool sound. This is a recent installation we just did with Brooke, and you'll probably hear more about, she's done another project here locally. This is it's called the Unknown Zone. This is a portal with doors. This we were able to do in conjunction with our nonprofit. So anyway, thank you so much. Appreciate you listening.
Awesome. Thank you, Natalie. Hopefully what you're going to see over the course of these 4 presentations is how interwoven our arts community is through these projects. Next up, I'd like to, how do you want to be introduced? MD, famous artist is how I know him. Here's MD.
All right. Yes, please. It's 1990 and I'm driving from California and I come around the S-turns towards the Ophir Wall and I'm 20 years old and I look and go, where am I? What is this foreboding place? And now I'm living in this place 20 years later and restoring the Silver Bell mine and mill at the base of the Ophir Wall. And I like to say I bought the worst house on the best block, because as we go through these pictures, it'll show some of the process, but the daunting start to finish of having a creative vision for these old mines that absolutely were necessary for the enrichment of our United States of gold and silver production, all the base metals that came out of the San Juans, mineral rich in this area. But as we're finding now, how detrimental the heavy metals were to our watershed. So as we go to reclaim some of these areas, as an artist having a vision and coming into something that other people balked at for years, the Silver Bell sat at mile marker 64 for the last 100 years. From 1890, the train, the Rio Grande Southern at that spot, the Ophir tram, the Alta tram, bringing minerals down. It was a heavy industrialized, necessary part of the area. And it created a lot of waste rock and a lot of mineral waste. And they're still dealing with it now. But having the opportunity to go in there and start to clean up this area, layer by layer, we peeled back and have been able to find just the jewel that lies beneath all of the waste that was there. As you see in these slides, as we roll through, it was nothing short of a miracle that we were able to get through it in a regimented way and do a revegetative cap around the entire mill site, which was about an acre to an acre and a half. A lot of the materials were already on site, and we were able to use what was left behind in waste material, like Natalie spoke of, in these opportunity zones of all the things that we found that were left behind, and to be able to repurpose them. So now there's been some slides that have come through of my artwork. I've always done art, and I've seen it as a place that we can share these collective experiences. As the walls close in on Telluride, it's gotten smaller and smaller with less opportunities to have places to make art, and to have 18 acres just about 9 miles away from Telluride to have an arts and adventure campus is just such an incredible opportunity. So we do hope that you guys come to the closing party from 4 to 6 on Friday afternoon and be able to see some of the progress we've made. Natalie referenced Brooks Doors in the Unknown Zone. That's the Unknown Zone Camp V, and we're doing Unknown Zone Silver Bell, and trying to present in such a way that you guys will feel how this transformation has occurred. We're currently working on some of the fun part of it now is actually redoing some of the buildings and having somewhere to go that the roofs don't leak and there are some amenities. So here's a closing slide, and this is a artist that will be out there on Friday, and he has a trademark on LED trampoline light shows. So there's your teaser. Thank you very much, you guys. Appreciate it.
And Kate, do we have another speaker? Perfect. Hope you're enjoying the Telluride Arts.
Okay, thank you. And I'd just like to introduce Lori Lundquist, who is the owner of Deep Creek Mine and also an artist herself.
Thanks, Kate. It's a real pleasure to be here on behalf of Deep Creek Mine. It's actually co-owned by family members. And we are established, the mine claim was established in 1902, just for the record. But there's evidence that limestone was mined there before that. And the town of, or Deep Creek is 7 miles from town. And it is the town of Lime on your USGS maps. So this is an image of going up the road to the Deep Creek mine, which is right above 145. That black streak of rock is the Pony Express limestone, and it runs for several miles through the county, but this is the only place where it's mined. So historically, limestone, there are limestone kilns on the property as well. So historically, limestone was actually burned and created the mortar for many of the historic buildings in town. Okay, I'm not sure. I'm going to get around here because I'm not sure what we ended up with. Oh, okay. I'm just going to back up to the first. This is, let's see. In 1992, Dan and I started an art school down in Deep Creek, which was called Deep Creek School. And in 1995, the active mining was ceased. Are these going a little bit faster than normal? Honestly. Okay. Let's see. So in about 1996, I think we made what was the sort of the first culture claim inside of the mine, which was to put in the first concrete floor and establish a printmaking studio inside of one of the portals of the mine. During the Deep Creek School, we had a whole series of artists that came for different reasons, and we sort of got a little start on neon and different types of artistic production inside of the mine. This is an art performance, a light art performance by an artist, Noah Riskin, sort of a dance and light performance. So this was a chance to take advantage of the complete darkness and quiet inside of the mine. Then we met Anton Viditsvoord, and Anton Viditsvoord is a wonderful artist who moved to the area, I guess about 12 or 15 years ago. And he's kind of a local legend in that he was one of the original Burning Man artists from the area. So Anton has got an incredible skill set that is perfectly suited to the mine. He's an architect by training, has incredible engineering skills and steelworking, but he also has people skills and the ability to get to sort of create collaborative environment. So that piece that we just saw a minute ago was by Scott Harris, Scott Harris and Anton have established another nonprofit called Deep Creek Experimental, and Deep Creek Experimental is a nonprofit underneath of Kate's umbrella, the Telluride Arts umbrella. So they do events down at the mine, and we've been involved with the county in a very, very long process of getting our permitting together so that we can be more official about doing these events, these wonderful community events that bring people together for kind of wonderful experimental art burns, things like that. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so this is, right now we're just in the final stages of finalizing some of the portal openings and securing some of the portal openings. So there's been a great deal of actual just physical work with heavy equipment and construction over the last, well, 20 years to bring the mine into a sort of a form where people can safely come in and out. And right now we've done an awful lot of work with this particular machine. We got this machine from the last miner that mined the property. This is a shot of the mine apron itself. Quite a bit of what happens there happens outside on the main mine apron. There's sort of a natural amphitheater created by the limestone walls. And Anton has basically hosted wonderful events that include sort of these very creative structures and burns and different types of audio visual events, spectacles of different types, and cultural events inside of the mine as well. The mine is considered a room and pillar excavation. And actually right now we have the incredible pleasure of a remarkable installation by Johannes Sheridan.
Hi there. I'm really grateful to be here to give you a brief introduction about our installation in this incredible site. In 2019, I was asked with my fellow collaborators, two sound artists, we're Chromasonic, and we were invited to speak at the Original Thinkers Conference. And then we're made aware of the fact that there is a decommissioned limestone mine somewhere near Telluride, and whether we wouldn't want to bring an installation into this site or create an installation for the site. So we came to the mine a few months before, and we're just really enamored with the fact that we're in the middle of the mountain. It's pitch black, and we wanted to bring our work into this location, into the middle of a mountain. Our work specifically connects light frequencies to sound frequencies. It makes light audible and sound visible. And we create large-scale installations that, in essence, kind of push perception and create you and create a hyper-immersive state for you to experience. And so, if you can just pause it just for 1 second, maybe you can just put it back on the picture. The video's cut short a little bit. But the main point here is that, we feel incredibly privileged to have been embraced by the community. There was so much support after the conference. We had hundreds of people through there to such resounding success that I kind of brazenly declared at the end of the conference that we should make this site a permanent site. And it's through the support of Telluride Arts, Original Thinkers, the town of Telluride, all stakeholders really here, and together also with local artists, because there's artist studios out in the mine. We have all of this energy going now to make this a permanent cultural site for Telluride, and we hope to make it open to the public in 2022. And if you have the chance to come up, we'd love to visit you there. This is just a sneak peek to an incredible, truly incredible experience. So thank you for having me.
So it might be already obvious to everybody, but you can go out and see that Deep Creek mine, there's artist studios and that installation at lunchtime tomorrow. I think it's between 12 and 1:30. And I just cannot say how incredible this experience is, and encourage you just not to miss it. It's really like nothing else you have seen. I'm positive. Okay, so this is our project, Telluride Arts. The Telluride Transfer Warehouse, which we were also invited to a reception this evening. There'll be some other artists there. Was established in 1906. It had one of the first, whoa, that was quick, hauling permits. Oh, that's okay, I can talk fast. One of the first hauling permits in the state of Colorado, and it was through this building that all of the equipment and supplies came off of the trains, were loaded up onto mules and horses and taken up and built the mines in the region. So it was a central hub of the mining community for many, many years. And then it was purchased by, and then it was a gas station for a bunch of years. And then it was purchased actually by Joe Zoline, who was one of the founders of the ski resort. And he needed that hauling permit that came with this property so that he could bus the first skiers up to the lifts in Mountain Village in 1972, right? It's just interesting fact, Telluride Arts, the local arts council that we're involved with, was established 1 year before the ski resort opened, which is pretty cool. I think it just shows the kind of commitment this community has to the arts. So in 1979, the first year the building was left unheated, the roof caved in and took out the second floor and then was left in a state of disrepair for almost 40 years. It was locked to the public. We fondly call these the TARP years. The tarp was meant to protect the stones from a freeze-thaw cycle that was popping them off the top and onto the street below. This is about the era where we got involved in the project. It was about 7 years ago that this property was sold to a developer. And as part of the development, which is a huge now condo project next door, they were required, and this is an expression of the values of this community, to give something back. And so we got involved as a nonprofit partner and purchased the warehouse for way below market. We did pay for it, but we were able to secure this building, put a deed restriction on it, and ensure that it was going to be a public space forever. We also went about the process of restoring it and stabilizing the walls. And I think I've heard from all three of the other presenters a similar ethos that we share, which is that we wanted to allow the property to tell its story. We didn't want to polish it. We wanted it to be left as rough and leave as much character as we possibly could. So you'll see evidence of that in the building today. When we got involved, we opened the doors. There were 2 trees that had grown up into the building and over the roof, and people that have been living here for 40 years hadn't been inside. I had a kid here, and she always it contradicts that and said the kids were in there all the time, but most adults weren't. And so when we opened the doors, it just was a secret garden. And what we learned is that this part of the building's history, this open air, roofless era, had become a really important part of the history to tell as we started our restoration. So we have opened this, and during COVID, we just happened to have one of the only venues that could be open probably across the country, because it was a controlled, roofless, open air space. And so we've had hundreds of events for the community during COVID, and so far, no COVID cases. But these just shows kind of the variety of arts and culture and community events that have been hosted in the warehouse and continue to be to this day. And our plans going forward are to have a very light touch on a restoration of the building that includes a partial roof, leaving some of it open air, having a partially enclosed space that can open to the open air part of the building, having a rooftop deck, and just some bare essentials that we don't have right now, like bathrooms, running water, maybe a little bit of heat, some offices, some storage, things like that. But you can just see how magical this space is already. And, you know, maybe in a way, these are the good old days. We are obligated by the town of Telluride to do a permanent stabilization of the building. Right now, it's just this steel temporary stabilization that you can see that sort of obstructs the space, which you'll see when you're in there today. So we're required to do a permanent restoration and stabilization and at least a partial roof on this building. And so we're actively moving forward with those plans. And I can't wait to share it with you. Do we have time, or does anyone want us to do a little Q&A? Does anyone have any questions? Okay. That's a great idea. Is that happening on the conference website, or we'd be happy to take that on? That's a great idea. Thank you. Okay, great. Okay, we'll cross-link. How about, that sounds good. All right, thanks, everybody.
Well, thank you, Telluride Arts, Kate, MD, Lori, Natalie, Johannes. Thank you all for sharing that. I hope we get a chance. I really want to see that Deep Creek personally. So thank you for sharing that. We're moving on to our next session, which is how art can be used in mining and reclamation, and that's certainly part of the reason we chose this theme this year. And so, for me, mining and reclamation, well, it's personal. I know it's personal for all of us, but for me, it's been personal for quite a long time. I grew up in Steamboat Springs, and I was more on the reclamation restoration side, and my stepdad was a coal miner my whole life, and so we got into arguments, at the dinner table. What was more important, his coal mining or what I thought should happen in those areas, and it was in that space, of these conversations every night where we hardly agreed on anything, that something creative came out of that. How do we communicate between mining and reclamation? And it's something that I find so beautiful here, and it's something that I would say is artistic. There's an art to finding out how to communicate with each other. And so art isn't just this hobby, this luxury. It's really important. It's really necessary to bridge the gap, to give us some context, some space, both temporally and spatially, to look at things with a different point of view. Who are we reclaiming for? Who are we mining for? Why are we doing this? And so I'm excited to say that at Headwaters Alliance, where I work, we're trying to think of those ideas as we work on water quality and very tangible things, but we're also thinking about this thing called art. And how can it be incorporated into our work? Because art, it seems, is something that's intuitive, something that is this response that we all understand and share, and yet it's intangible. And so it makes it difficult to put on paper and get a message across. And yet with what we've seen from these artists and what we see with Tom Livingstone's work, it certainly elicits a response. It certainly communicates to us. So next